meeting Keir Starmer, the UK Premier.
Yes, he's coming tonight.
What do you think of him? Some of his colleagues in government have been quite critical of you.
Well, I'm going to see him in about an hour, so
Can I start with the elections in the United States? Whatever the results, will the Prime Minister join me in saying that it's not for a candidate to decide which votes do and don't count, or when to stop counting? The next president must be the free and fair choice of the American people.
Keir Starmer is having a meltdown after US President Donald Trump called him out in a shocking twist of events. This isn't just a disagreement between two world leaders, but a political firestorm that can change the future of US-UK relations.
The UK is way out of line, and we'll say the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one.
Donald Trump said the UK and the EU are out of line. But what he was really trying to say was that Keir Starmer had stepped out of line and he wasn't having it.
take their country back. They want to have independence in a sense. And you see it with Europe, all over Europe. You're going to have more than just, in my opinion, more than just what happened last night. The UK has been such a great ally for so long. They'll always be at the front of the line. They've been amazing allies in good times and in bad times.
But this is where things get interesting. The issue Trump has with the UK is peculiar to Keir Starmer, as he has always supported the UK, especially after the Brexit vote. The question is, what did Keir Starmer do that is so unforgivable to Trump? Well, the clip you just watched can give you a clue.
Well, we're marching because we are standing in solidarity with many Americans and communicating our huge disapproval with this president. A president who's said awful things during London's lowest moments of terrorism, who has attacked our democratically elected Mayor Sadiq Khan, a president who has retweeted far-right hatred of Britain First, the hatred that saw the death of Joe Cox. For all of those reasons and so much more, people are coming out in droves today to make it absolutely clear that Donald Trump is not welcome in our country. I don't think any of us could have believed that a man full of such bile, such hatred, such evil would get his hands on what at its best is the beacon of freedom in the world. And so this presidency is worse than any of us could ever have imagined. It's obviously a disaster for the United States, but it's a huge disaster for the international community as he tears up climate change, as he reintroduces tariffs, as he says no to the UN and their human rights regime. I think that Theresa May has been terribly humiliated today. She has looked like an appeaser, a sycophant, as someone she should rightly condemn for his statements today in the Sun, his statements about Britain, his statements about our mayor. She should condemn it instead of holding his hands. Trump should not be meeting our great monarch. He should not be meeting the Queen. He doesn't deserve it. The offer of this trip was premature in the first place. It's a huge embarrassment to us. It's a huge embarrassment to her. We protest and we march in numerous ways, and satire and humour's one of those ways. So I welcome that balloon that really sends up this president and reveals him for what he is.
There you have David Lammy, one of Starmer's biggest allies in the Labour Party and UK Foreign Secretary, attacking Donald Trump. But he is not the only one from Starmer's camp to criticise the US president. Then you have Angela Rayner, who practically used choice words to describe Donald Trump. Did they think Trump will never return? If you are enjoying this political discussion so far, like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Mr. Speaker, can I begin by congratulating President-elect Trump on his historic election victory. As the closest of allies, the UK and US will continue to work together to protect our shared values of freedom and democracy. And having had dinner with President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago, I look forward to working with him in the years to come. And the Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise. But seriously, Mr. Speaker, we live in probably a more volatile world than we've lived in for many decades. It is absolutely crucial that we have a strong relationship, that strong special relationship forged in difficult circumstances between the US and the UK. We will continue to work, as we have done in the 4 months in government, on issues of security, our economy and global conflict.
Keir Starmer is sweating and extremely nervous after what Donald Trump said about the United Kingdom. He said that the UK was way out of line. However, what he really meant was that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party were out of line to a ridiculous level.
Trudeau came to see me. He's a good guy, Justin. He said, no, we have no trade deficit with you. We have none. Donald, please, nice guy, good-looking guy, comes in. Donald, we have no trade deficit. He's very proud because everybody else, was getting killed with it. So he's proud. I said, wrong, Justin, you do. I didn't even know. Josh, I had no idea. I just said you're wrong. You know why? Because we're so stupid. And I thought they were smart. I said, you're wrong, Justin. He said, no, we have no training. I said, well, in that case, I feel differently. I said, but I don't believe it. I sent one of our guys out. He's got money. They went out. I said, check, because I can't believe it. Well, sir, you're actually right. We have no deficit, but that doesn't include energy and timber. Canada, you don't have a timber company. And when you do, we lose $17 billion. It's incredible.
They've put it in that bag of Trump the entertainer, Trump the jokester in front of an audience.
Trump being Trump is a nonsense answer. If that's what Trump is, he's a straight up liar.
It doesn't hurt me to say it. Donald Trump was wrong. He was making up a story.
Being the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer is now seeing his premiership getting snatched. That's because earlier, one of the major reasons Justin Trudeau was forced to resign was his mishandling of relations with Donald Trump. Interestingly, Trudeau did nothing personal to Donald Trump, unlike Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, who have given the worst possible derogatory remarks about Donald Trump.
Mr. President, Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. I love Canada, by the way.
Prime Minister Trudeau talking about you last night.
Well, he's two-faced. But, the truth is that I called him out, and I guess he's not very happy about it. We're being taken advantage of on trade. They put out a document. I don't know if you saw it. They didn't want me to see it, but we found it. Perhaps they were trying to show the power they have. It's close to $100 billion a year loss with Canada. We finished the meeting. Really, everybody was happy. I left and it was very friendly. When I got onto the plane, I think that Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. And I see the television, and he's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, push him around. We just shook hands. It was very friendly. He's two-faced.
They have called him a racist, anti-woman sociopath, a little short of a white nationalist and racist, and a sad little man. Now Starmer is in a panic because he knows Trump won't forget that and will punish him and his party.
I'm determined to put money back in the pockets of working people. And that's why a Labour government would freeze council tax this year. No ifs, no buts. Labour would freeze council tax next year.
We're going to freeze council tax next year.
You could rip up that council tax bill because you would not pay a penny more than you paid last year. Yes, you heard it right. not a penny more on your council tax.
But none of those pledges in our manifesto requires increases in council tax.
No, we're not planning to reform council tax.
That is what we would do in government.
Is he going to do what a Labour government would do and announce an immediate freeze in council tax bills?
We're often asked the question, when you criticise the government, what would you do? Well, we're saying what we would do. We would freeze council.
Keir Starmer's worst nightmare is unfolding in real time. His leadership, once seemingly unshakable, is now facing unprecedented challenges. The reason is simple. Donald Trump has just sent an unmistakable warning not to the UK as a whole, but directly to Starmer and his Labour Party.
So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity, what they've done.
When Trump said Britain was way out of line, he wasn't talking about the entire nation. He was talking about Starmer's reckless leadership, his catastrophic foreign policy blunders, and Labour's role in dragging the UK into an era of economic and diplomatic instability.
They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
Yes, Starmer did not appreciate it. Now, just like Justin Trudeau before him, Starmer is beginning to see the writing on the wall. He knows that when Trump turns against a foreign leader, the consequences are swift and brutal. Trudeau was humiliated into an early resignation, not because of domestic scandals, but because he failed to manage relations with Trump. His inability to secure stable US-Canada relations made him a liability, and his party pushed him out to salvage what was left of their diplomatic standing. The message was clear: when a leader damages their country's relationship with the United States, they will be sacrificed for the greater good. That's why now experts are suggesting Starmer should learn and get on board with Trump. However, that's something Starmer cannot do, even if he wants to. That's because he has done irreversible harm. Starmer thinks that by congratulating Trump, everything will be forgotten. Perhaps he does not know how powerful Trump is and how he treats his enemies. Starmer now stands on that very same ledge. But there's one key difference between him and Trudeau. Trudeau never personally attacked Trump. Yes, their political ideologies clash, but Trudeau never went as far as calling Trump a racist, a sociopath, a neo-Nazi sympathizer, and a danger to the world. Starmer and his Labour allies, however, have done exactly that. For years, Labour treated Donald Trump as a joke. They openly mocked him, insulted him, and even interfered in US elections to try and prevent his return to power. Their politicians, officials, and activists made it their mission to publicly humiliate Trump, believing they would never have to deal with him in power again. But now Trump is back, and he remembers everything. Labour's history of hostility toward Trump is well documented. Foreign Secretary David Lammy once described Trump as a woman-hating, neo-Nazi, sympathising sociopath. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband called him a racist, misogynistic, self-confessed groper. Even Labour activists actively campaigned against Trump in the US election, openly working for his opponent. Throughout Trump's first presidency, Labour repeatedly portrayed him as an existential threat to democracy and Western stability, and now these same people have to beg him for a trade deal. The arrogance is staggering. Labour assumed they could insult Trump, undermine him, and interfere in US elections without any consequences. But, now that Trump holds power again, he is about to make them pay for their mistakes. That's why when Starmer congratulated Trump, everyone could sense the lack of energy and feeling of regret. You see, Starmer built his career aligning himself with the globalist, pro-EU, anti-Trump elite. He never imagined he would one day depend on Trump's goodwill to keep the UK economy. But reality has hit him hard. Britain is in desperate need of a strong economic relationship with the US, especially after Brexit and global financial instability. Without favourable trade terms, the UK's economy could suffer serious long-term damage. However, the problem is that Trump never forgets, unlike most politicians who let past insults slide. Trump holds grudges and he delivers payback. Starmer is well aware that if Trump retaliates against Labour's past insults, his party will turn against him. Labour MPs may publicly support Starmer now, but privately, many of them understand that if Trump imposes tariffs, blocks security agreements, or simply refuses to engage with the UK under Starmer, the economic fallout will be disastrous. Labour cannot afford to have a Prime Minister who is completely frozen out by the world's most powerful economy. If Trump makes it clear that he will not work with Starmer, then Labour will do exactly what Canada did to Trudeau. They will force him out. When Trump recently stated that the UK was out of line, he wasn't making an empty remark. It was a clear message to Starmer and his team, a warning that Labour's anti-Trump hostility has put Britain at serious risk. But rather than admitting his mistakes, Starmer is scrambling. During the Prime Minister's questions, Starmer was directly confronted by Conservative leader Kemi Bendonch, who demanded to know whether Foreign Secretary David Lammy had apologised for his hateful and derogatory remarks about Trump. Instead of taking responsibility, Starmer dodged the question, giving a vague and weak response about how he and Lammy had a constructive discussion with Trump.
The Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order. And if he did not apologise, will the Prime Minister do so now?
I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister did not distance himself from the remarks made by the Foreign Secretary, and I'm very sure that President Trump will soon be calling to thank him for sending all of those North London Labour activists to campaign for his opponent. Given that most of his cabinet signed a motion to ban President Trump from addressing Speaker, will the Prime Minister show that he and his government can be more than student politicians by asking you, Mr. Speaker, to extend an invitation to President Trump to address Parliament on his next visit?
Starmer's refusal to publicly apologise is not just arrogance, but also a political suicide. Trump has already won, and the moment Labour started backpedalling and trying to play nice, they admitted defeat. But Trump is not going to make it easy for them. Every Labour MP, every cabinet minister, and every UK business leader now knows the truth.
And that's why, when President Trump graciously hosted me for dinner at Trump Tower, I told him that we will invest more deeply than ever in this transatlantic bond.
Starmer has no plan for salvaging the UK's relationship with America. Under Starmer, Britain was already on the brink of economic stagnation, but now with Trump back in power, the UK faces the threat of a catastrophic trade war, one that will cripple British exports and raise costs for British businesses. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting political content.